Social psychology 2. Enhancing our views of ourselves. Most U.S. college students rate themselves as better than average students. Leadership 70% above average. 94% of college instructors rated themselves as better than average teachers. Called self-serving attributional bias. Kinda like the fundamental attribution error, when other people fail, it's due to their character, and not the situation they might be involved. In this case, success reflects our traits, not situations. They give test of sensory or perceptual discrimination. The experimenter did the test super difficult or easier. When people did well, they said, it was because they're so good at it. When they did badly, they said, that was a tough test. People are biased to attribute their successes to their wonderful traits, and their failures to situations. Constructing social realities. Final game of the season, Princeton vs Dartmouth. Princeton won. Princeton students said Dartmouth started dirty play, and saw Dartmouth commit twice as many penalties. Dartmouth students saw Princeton as dirty, and saw equal number of penalties. False consensus. You decide if you'll do something or not, is based on your estimate of whether people in general would do it. And you tend to overly believe that other people will do the same behaviors that you do. If I smoke as a teenager, I think a lot of teenagers smoke as well. If you see a lot of people throwing garbage onto the street, the beach, the river, you might feel is widespread and an acceptable way to go. They have to see the behavior you want, not the behavior you're trying to discourage. Cognitive dissonance. Attitudes vs actions. We want to do good things and be a good person, but the actions we do are often a little below that. E.g., give people to do a boring task. Once their shift was over, you tell them, I'll give you $1 if you say the next person who is coming, that this task was pretty good, and he's fortunate to be here. With other people, you tell them to do the same, but you'll give $20. And at the end, you ask them, do you really believe the task was really good? As a result, $1, almost all of the people claim they really enjoy the task. $20, a few say they like the task. Which means, the effort to match up the discrepancy between your attitudes and actions, you solve it by creating a rationalization that puts it all together, and you say it was a pretty good task to fill that gap. E.g. 2. You put a bunch of random things in a desk. You ask the person to select 2 items they really want. Then, pick 2 items that were in the middle of the list, and ask him, will you pick one of these 2, you get to take it home, and he picks one. Then, ask him to do the rating for the same things again. As a result, the item you chose move up the list. If it was rated as 5, now it's a 2. If you have people rate after they made a decision about what they're going to do, they always rate the thing they picked as awesome, and the thing they didn't pick as much worse than they initially rated it. But, is that a way to have a happy life? Would you want to get married to somebody and say, if only I'd waited a little bit longer? So, it's deeply human. The worse the experience is, but if you've had some sense of choice in it, you will explain to yourself why it wasn't such a bad decision. But if another person chose it for you, you don't try to justify it. First impressions. Few moments with somebody correlated pretty well of how you rate somebody with respect to his personality. Also, self-ratings correlate pretty well of how people tend to see you. Thin slice experiment. If you see a muted tape of a teacher doing class, 6, 12, and 30 seconds, and you rate how you think he performed his class. After a full semester with their actual students, when they rate his performance, the results have a 0.74% correlation. Once we form that first impression, that's it, we've set our final impression of that person within seconds of interaction. Because we know what we like, if we detect things about that person truly are something about who they are, that set our interactions with them. One teacher prepared a brief math lesson, students took test. And strangers rated a 10 SEC video of the teacher. The better rated teacher was correlated with high test scores. Effective teaching is something about engaging students. We know what we like and we detect it amazingly quickly in people. Once we have that first impression, we keep interpreting things in terms of that first impression. E.g., guest lecturer. Somebody makes a presentation of the guest lecturer. In the first case he said, people who know him consider him to be a very warm or cold person, industrious, and determined. The lecturer was the same. At the end, the students rated better the warm person, and took more part in the discussion. Physical attractiveness. They're judged as more intelligent, competent, sociable and moral. E.g., teachers given report cards and photographs of children they didn't know. Attractive children were rated as brighter and more successful than an unattractive child with identical report cards. Child misbehavior. Due to environment equals attractive. Due to personality equals less attractive. Court cases, comparable crimes. Shorter sentence equals attractive. Longer sentence equals less attractive. Halo effect. You take one positive dimension of a person, and once you say one thing is positive, you tend to rate other things as positive. Likeable equals intelligent, attractive equals smart, etc. E.g. Two groups saw a video of a lecturer with strong Belgian accent, answering question in a warm and friendly manner, or a cold and distant manner. Warm equals attractive, likable, mannerisms, and less accent. Stereotypes. We do it very quickly and unconsciously. Once we make the decision, it influences our actual behavior. Stereotype treat subject poorly subject behaves poorly in response negative stereotype confirmed and the cycle starts again. Cultural psychology. Individualistic vs group societies. If you ask people from different cultures to draw a line in the middle of an empty box. Japan, they draw a relative size line. America, absolute size. And it's pretty malleable. In an airport. If you ask them to choose a pencil from a box of pencil. 4 pencils are from the same color. 1 pencil is from one color. East Asians pick the majority pen color. European American pick the minority pen. Fundamental attribution error. Attribute the actions of other to their character and not their situations. It's a little bit worldwide. But the US is an outlier. Attractiveness bias. Find one thing and generalize it. More in the US. Autism. Prevalence 1/110-140. Dramatic increase in recent years. Diagnosed by age 3. 4:1 male to female. Difficulties in social cognition. Communication/language. Repetitive movements. They don't have a natural desire to socially with anybody. Control group, making eye contact, most people look around the nose, eyes, mouth. Autistic group, don't focus in the eyes, they just look randomly. If you measure the total brain size, they have an early overgrowth of the brain, and at age 5 gets back to the normal development to the typical size. Theory of mind is delayed for around 5 to 6 years in individuals with autism. Kids from 6 to 12 years old with autism have the same IQ as a typical 4 years old. Half of individuals with autism are nonverbal. People with Asperger's syndrome are individuals who have the social difficulties of autism, but have a very high functioning cognitive and IQ level. Hyder and Simmel. A video about 3 triangles, who seem to fight, run, the little one is scared, and so on. That's what normal people tend to do, they give social descriptions to everything. But people with autism don't see these stories. In the brain, the visual cortex is activated in both cases. But the parts involved in social interaction, thinking about other people feeling and thoughts, like the superior temporal sulcus, in the medial prefrontal cortex, doesn't get activated in individuals with autism if they see this kind of displacements.